When a man decides to walk away, the worst thing you can do is run after him. Don't chase him. Let him walk. Because the truth is, the more you chase, the more he runs. Every time you send that just checking on you message or try to remind him of the good times, you're handing him power he didn't earn. Chasing a man who chose to leave you is like trying to sell diamonds to someone shopping for plastic. You know your worth, but in that moment, you're acting like you forgot it. When someone walks away, especially a man who once claimed to care, you have to recognize that it's not your job to convince him to stay. Letting him go isn't weakness, it's power. Because when you let someone walk, what you're really saying is, I refuse to beg for love. I refuse to lower my standards just to be kept. Here's the thing. When a man chooses distance, it's not always about you. Sometimes he's battling his own demons. Sometimes he's just not ready for the kind of woman you are. And sometimes he simply didn't see the value standing in front of him. But regardless of the reason, his choice is clear. So let it be clear on your end too. Walk away with grace, not desperation, because chasing someone who isn't chasing you is emotional self-sabotage. What most women don't realize is that masculine energy thrives on purpose and challenge. When you chase, you reverse the roles. You're now doing the pursuing. And that instantly shifts the dynamic. Men don't fall in love with women who chase. They fall for women who know they can be loved without begging for it. The moment you start overextending, trying to prove you're good enough for someone who walked away, you're moving from power to panic. Letting him walk doesn't mean you stop loving or caring. It just means you start loving yourself more. It means you believe that the right man doesn't have to be chased. He chooses you freely and consistently. It means you'd rather be alone with dignity than together in confusion. Because the moment you stand still and let him walk, you give yourself the space to see who he really was, and more importantly, who you really are without him. Men notice when you don't react. Silence disturbs them more than yelling ever could. You want to make an impact? Let him see your absence, not your anxiety. Let him wonder how you're smiling without him, how you're glowing without his attention. When you stop reaching out, stop checking his stories, stop responding instantly, that's when he starts to notice the gap. And trust me, if he ever had real feelings, that silence will be loud. But even if he doesn't come back, so what? The goal isn't to get him back, the goal is to get you back. The woman who knew her value, the woman who didn't settle, the woman who commands respect without having to chase it. You owe that to yourself. Not every man who walks away deserves a return ticket. Some exits are divine protection, not rejection. But you won't see that if you're too busy trying to drag him back into your life. So the next time he pulls away, let him. Don't send another message. Don't ask him what went wrong. Don't lose sleep trying to decode silence. Just sit back, breathe, and work on you. Because when you stop chasing, you start attracting. And the right man won't need to be reminded of your worth. He'll recognize it the moment he sees you walking in it. When someone you cared about walks away, it's natural to feel shaken. Your heart starts questioning everything. Your worth, your beauty, your decisions. You replay moments, search for what you could have done differently. And sometimes even convince yourself that maybe, just maybe, if you had said one more thing, stayed a little longer, or loved a little harder, things would be different. But the truth is, when someone leaves, it says more about where they are This is the moment where most people get stuck. They sit in the pain, they drown in self-blame, they get caught in the loop of why wasn't I enough? But healing and focusing on yourself isn't about blaming or overanalyzing. It's about reclaiming your energy. It's about remembering that your value never left, you just handed it to someone who didn't know how to carry it. When the relationship ends or someone pulls away, that's your cue to pull inward, not outward. This isn't the time to chase, it's the time to build. You heal by learning to sit with the silence without rushing to fill it. You let yourself feel, cry, scream, journal, whatever you need to do to release the emotion. Healing is messy. It's not always graceful, but it's necessary. And in that chaos, something powerful happens. You start to remember yourself, the version of you before the hurt. The version of you before the hurt. The version who smiled freely, who had dreams that weren't wrapped around someone else's presence, who knew that she was whole all by herself. Focusing on you means redefining your routine. Get back to your goals. Start saying yes to opportunities you may have passed up while pouring into someone else. Read books that feed your soul. Go places that inspire you. Be around people who remind you of your light, not because you're trying to distract yourself, but because you're choosing to rebuild what was neglected. You, your peace, your voice, your joy. You don't need to change to be loved. You just need to remember that the love you're looking for starts from within. When you stop needing someone to validate your worth, you become powerful. And trust me, there is nothing more attractive, nothing more magnetic than a woman who is walking in her purpose, who loves herself enough to let go of anything that threatens her peace. When you stop chasing closure from people who left you broken, you start creating healing from within. People often say, time heals all wounds, but that's not entirely true. It's not just time. It's what you do with that time. Do you sit around waiting, hoping they'll reach out, watching their social media and shrinking every time you see they've moved on? Or do you say, I may not understand why this happened, but I'm going to use this pain as fuel to become everything I was meant to be? You don't heal by hoping they'll come back. You heal by realizing you never needed them to complete you in the first place. That realization, that shift in mindset, is the beginning of something greater than any relationship could have given you. Because when you focus on your growth, your healing, your peace, you raise your standards without even trying. And once you reach that level of self-love and clarity, you'll attract people who respect you, not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. So when you're hurting, when you're tempted to chase or beg, pause, breathe, and turn that energy inward. You are the project now. You are the prize. And the moment you start treating yourself like it, everything changes. Silence is one of the most misunderstood forms of communication, especially when emotions are involved. When someone hurts you, disappoints you, or walks away from you, the natural urge is to respond, to ask why, to explain your side, to fight for understanding. But sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Because silence, when used correctly, is louder than any argument, clearer than any explanation, and more impactful than any plea for attention. When you choose silence, you're not being passive. You're being intentional. You're making a decision not to participate in chaos. You're choosing peace over drama, dignity over desperation. People often think that silence is weakness, that it means you're afraid to speak up or that you don't care. But the truth is, silence requires strength. It takes self-control to stay quiet when your heart is screaming. It takes power to hold your tongue when you have every reason to speak. But that restraint, that quiet confidence, it speaks volumes. Silence confuses people who expected you to break down. When someone leaves you or mistreats you, they often wait for the reaction. They expect you to blow up their phone, to cry, to question, to chase. But when you respond with stillness, they're forced to face the void they created. You're no longer feeding their ego. You're not giving them the satisfaction of seeing you fall apart. And that silence, it echoes. It makes them wonder if they ever had the hold they thought they did. In a world where everyone rushes to say the last word, silence becomes rare. And that rarity makes it powerful. It creates space. Space for reflection, space for accountability, space for growth. It allows you to observe rather than react, to protect your energy instead of spilling it all over someone who may never value it. You don't have to explain your boundaries. You don't have to justify your pain. The absence of your voice often delivers the message louder than any well-crafted speech. Silence also gives you the upper hand emotionally. When you stop engaging, you stop bleeding energy. Every argument, every reply, every "let me just explain," it drains you. It gives away pieces of your power. But silence keeps your energy intact. It's not about ignoring what happened. It's about rising above it. It's saying, I don't need to perform my pain for anyone. It's owning your story without making someone else the author of your reaction. There's a certain peace that comes with silence, a peace that can't be found in back and forth texts or endless explanations. You begin to realize that not everything requires your response. Not everyone deserves access to your emotions. You start valuing your voice so much that you become selective with where, when, and how you use it. That's wisdom, that's maturity, that's power. Sometimes people think they've won when you go silent. Let them think that. Your silence is not surrender, it's strategy. It's patience. It's healing. While they're busy wondering why you haven't reacted, you're busy rebuilding, evolving, elevating. And eventually they realize the silence wasn't weakness, it was growth. When you're silent, you force others to sit with their actions. No justifications, no distractions, just the weight of their own decisions. And whether they admit it or not, that silence speaks to them in ways your words never could. It's not about revenge or manipulation. It's about choosing your peace. It's about mastering the art of walking away with your head high and your heart intact. So, when the moment comes when you feel the urge to respond, to defend, to beg, pause. Sit with that silence. Let it do the talking, because the most powerful statement you'll ever make is knowing when not to make one at all. Confidence is magnetic. It's not just how you walk or talk. It's the energy you carry when you know who you are and what you bring to the table. When someone looks at you and sees that you're not begging for attention, not chasing validation, but instead living fully in your truth, that's when they feel pulled toward you. Confidence says, I am enough, without needing to shout it. It's the quiet power that turns heads and shifts rooms without forcing anything. Desperation, on the other hand, is a heavy energy. It's rooted in lack. It sends out a message that says, I need you to complete me, or I can't be okay without you. And the truth is, people can feel that energy instantly. When you're desperate, you overgive, over-explain, overextend. You move from a place of fear, fear of losing, fear of being alone, fear of not being chosen. But that fear doesn't attract love, it pushes it away. It creates imbalance. Because love, real love, doesn't thrive in panic. It grows in peace. When You're confident, you don't chase anyone. You let people show up for you. You give, but you don't beg. You care, but you don't lose yourself in caring. You're not afraid to be alone because you know solitude is better than being with someone who makes you feel small. And that mindset? For breadcrumbs, just because you're afraid the loaf won't come. You wait. You trust. You walk away when something doesn't feel right. You don't try to prove your worth. You live it. And that speaks louder than any words ever could. But desperation, it's loud. It's clingy. It floods text threads with messages, shows up where it's not invited, and confuses attention with love. Desperation says, I'll do anything to keep you, even if it means losing myself. And the hard truth is, the more desperate you appear, the less respect you get. Not because you're not worthy, but because you're showing up from a place of need instead of strength. You have to understand that the right people are drawn to strength, not struggle. They want to be around someone who knows their value, who's not afraid to say no, who's not afraid to walk away from anything that doesn't serve them. That doesn't mean playing games or being cold. It means being whole. And when you're whole, love becomes a choice, not a necessity. Confidence is quiet. It's felt, not shouted. It's when you walk into a room and don't need everyone to notice, but they do anyway. It's when you don't compete, don't compare, and don't chase. You simply are. And that being is enough. People are drawn to those who love themselves deeply, not in an arrogant way, but in a way that says, I know who I am, I know what I deserve, and I'm not afraid to wait for it. So when you find yourself trying too hard, texting too much, overthinking every move just to keep someone interested, pause, ask yourself where it's coming from. Is it love or is it fear? Because love rooted in fear becomes obsession. Love rooted in confidence becomes connection. And that connection, that's what creates something lasting. You don't have to chase what's meant for you. You just have to become someone who's ready to receive it. Confidence does that. Desperation delays it. When you move from confidence, you don't just attract love, you attract respect, alignment, and peace. And there's nothing more beautiful than that.